Now that we've looked at how to install our WordPress site, how to configure it and manage it, add plugins and themes, now we're going to start looking at content. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't change our theme later on. It doesn't mean that we can't add plugins and extra functionality later on. But we like to take care of a lot of those things early on and then start working on our content. Or maybe on a larger site, you'll have multiple people working, and therefore someone else will be working on creating content while you're out adding plugins, themes, configuring, etc. So the thing that you really need to know about with WordPress is that for the most part, there's actually only two main types of content you're going to add. One is a post and one is a page. They're very, very similar. They're, in fact, almost identical except in how you use them. So let's talk a little bit about that real quick. A page is something that's going to be content that's not going to change very often, and when it gets published, it really doesn't matter. i.e., there's no type of time constraint with it. This is something that's going to be long-standing. You're going to potentially have this page for months or even years. It's still going to be relevant. And it might be something like, for example, a privacy policy page, which we've already seen. Okay, that needs to be accessible. It doesn't matter the fact that it was published 6 months ago or 3 years ago. That always needs to be accessible and easily seen. Another thing with a page is the fact that a lot of times we're not going to categorize them. Okay, pages are standalone. Now, we can have a page that's a child of another page, or sometimes referred to as a subpage. And we can use a hierarchy organizational structure like that. But we don't organize them into categories and things like that we would when we talk about post. So let's talk about post for a second. Posts tend to be focused on when something gets published. So it's a little bit more important about the date of when it gets published. And think of something like a news magazine article or a newspaper or a blog post. And that's where that actually comes from, is being the blog post. Now, we will organize these so we can group things together. For example, we'll have categories and we have subcategories that we'll put our post in. We'll have tags to create a different type of hierarchical structure. We'll look at that in more detail coming up. So we're going to organize our post a little bit differently. Most of our content is going to be created via post. Now, every once in a while, you'll find a plugin that will create another type of content article that you can create. And they may call them different things, but in reality, they are usually either a page or a post. Now, with those, we can also add images. That's another type of content item that we can add. And we'll talk about that as well in a future video. But we're not usually going to see and display those content items on their own. They'll be displayed inside of a page or a post. So let's look at actually creating some content